Hello, Internet. I'm Corion, your witch in residence here on YouTube. And I want to talk about a movie that is important to me, but is one of the cheesier movies I've ever covered. Now, before I get into it too deeply, I know that some of you who are watching have not yet subscribed. I know it's a pain, but I would ask you to please consider joining, subscribing, liking this video at the very least. It super helps out the channel. And please consider a channel membership. It really, really helps. Thank you so very much. And with that obligatory ritual out of the way, let's dig in to the movie. Now, to give you some background, I never really got along well with my mother. And I never really had a mother figure. That is until I started dating my would be wife. And I met her mom. And her mom really took me in and took me under her wing and treated me like one of her own. And I was the only one out of the daughters, the son-in-laws, everybody who was allowed in Wendy's kitchen because I knew how to cook and I could help. And I didn't ask to explain things along the way. I just washed my hands, got to work chopping vegetables or handing over spices that she needed. And because of that, we bonded. And she became like my mom, too, which was wonderful. And a few years ago, she passed. And it was very hard on my wife. It was very hard on me because I lost my mom, too. So, but one of the things that we would do time and time again is watch The Day After Tomorrow. This is the Rolf Emmerich movie where the planet gets destroyed. I know that narrows it down to like a million movies, but hear me out. This one was destroyed by climate change, and it was one of my mom's favorite movies to watch because she loved watching these Rolf Emmerich disaster movies. It's actually something of a fairly large tragedy to me that her and I never got to sit down and watch the second Independence Day movie, even if it's terrible. But one of the things that always struck me about this, and we'd watch these movies, and we'd watch uh, the Statue of Liberty get destroyed in like every Rolf Emmerich movie. He's got like this thing for the Statue of Liberty. I don't judge, but okay. And I'd ask her at one point, like, why do you like this movie? And she turned to me at one point and she said, because even after the worst stuff happens, life goes on. And every one of these movies ends with humanity crawling out of the worst of a disaster and setting up their life again and rebuilding and coming back from the brink. And I thought that was a good message. And I kind of wanted to dive into that a little bit with you guys today because I think that message, that um, that important piece of all of Rolf Emmerich's works, especially The Day After Tomorrow, is that even when the worst happens, even when we wind up with planet destroying superstorms and a new ice age, humanity survives. Humanity figures out how to deal with it and goes on and carries forward and has new beginnings. And I think that's important to remember, not just for global spanning disasters, but also for the little disasters. When my mom Wendy died, she died of glioblastoma. Now, for those that don't know what that is, it's brain cancer and it's very quick. And it has a tendency to disable parts of the brain before it finally kills the person. So they lose who they are in a lot of ways. And it was terrible to watch her die. Um, even if it was quick relatively. It was still horrible. Watching the woman you saw as an idol, saw as somebody that was showing you the right way to grow up and do things and become who you were supposed to be, die. It was terrible, but I remembered what she said. Life goes on. We will rebuild. We come back from these things. Yeah, they hit and they hit hard and they hurt, but you survive it. And because you survived it, you have a chance to keep going and to rebuild and to come back better. And I thought, given that I think 2023 will be remembered as the year of natural disasters, it's important to remember that message, not just for global stuff, but for personal as well. Okay? You may be dealing with a very hard loss. You may be dealing with some criticality in your life that's failed. You may be dealing with all kinds of pressures, both the ones we put on ourselves and societal, but you will make it through. And we'll make it through because that's what we do as a species. That's what we do as individuals. Is we get up, we dust ourselves off, and we just begin again. And yeah, sure, this time we might build things a little sturdier. We might reinforce things that we know failed the first time. But we do it, and we do it together. We come together as survivors and recognize that going through things is hard. Building back is harder, but it's just as important. In fact, in a lot of ways, it's even more important because, for me anyway, I knew that I had to hold it together because when Wendy died, my wife needed me. My daughter really needed me. So I needed to be their rock. I needed to be their support. Despite the grief, despite the trauma, despite how horrible it was, I had to hold it together and take care of them, which was more important. Because at the end of the day, what matters most is not that we can have these things happen to us, but that we can survive them and we can grow and we can carry on. We can move forward and we can get better from those things. We can bend but not break and not yield. And that is the greatest strength humanity has to offer. Is yeah, we can go through a lot. We can deal with a lot of things that are hard. We can experience things that are hard to forget and even haunt us at times. But that understanding, that fundamental piece of humanity that says, yes, we can experience terrible things, but we are going to go forward again. We're going to grow. We're going to learn from these things and learn that ultimately they can't really defeat us. Okay? We can get hit. We can have horrible things happen. We can have planes fly into buildings. And what do we do in that case? We come together as a people. We sift through the rubble. We have people come out of all walks of life to help and offer what they have available. And we can rebuild, remember, but still move forward. For those of you who don't know, when 9/11 happened, I was actually in New York State. I was at university. I just started. And everybody was very careful with each other and making sure everyone else was all right near them for about the first month. And then when things finally started settling down and, cabbies would stop short of hitting me and yell at me again, I knew that we had gotten through it, that we had processed this. And we took steps as a society to make sure it wasn't going to happen again, which is good. This is how we're supposed to do things. Okay. Now, I think we may have taken too many steps, and I think it's important for us to reevaluate those at every turn to make sure, one, things like that don't happen again, but two, that we don't overcorrect for problems. So Here is what I'm going to say to all of you. There is a Buddhist meditation that goes something along the lines of envision your friends and your family and whatnot having a terrible experience and you not being able to do anything about it. Because once you can handle that, you'll be able to let go of it when it does happen. Now, I'm not going to suggest, trying to envision the worst. But what I'm going to suggest is, do you have a plan for when bad things happen? Are you prepared to deal with it so that you, your family, your loved ones will make it through? Because while I know all of you will survive the, of course, impending zombie apocalypse, I also think that each and every one of you is capable of having a reasonable plan put together when the worst should happen. Maybe that means knowing where you're going to go if things go bad. Maybe it means putting together an emergency kit with flashlights and extra batteries and a radio and, maybe some canned food or what have you. Just making sure you have it in case of a crisis. And also, don't forget the can opener and don't forget a heat source. Okay. I'm not saying this because I'm trying to scare any of you. I'm not saying this because I think the end of the world is coming or anything like that. I'm saying do it so that you have the peace of mind so that when bad things happen, when things go to hell, because inevitably they will, you can stand there and say, "Hey, I remember getting ready for this. I've got a bag ready to go of everything I need, and I just have to grab it and I can pick up and I can get forward with my plan." And even if my plan doesn't work properly the first time, that's okay. I've got everything I need if the worst should happen. So don't go to the extreme of prepping a secluded bunker in the middle of nowhere or the center of the earth or anything. Instead, take reasonable precautions, have a reasonable plan together. Um, when I was a kid, they always used to say, well, if there was a fire at your house, where would your family meet up to make sure everyone got out safe? Things along those lines. And what's the escape plan if the worst would happen? Not because they expected every house to catch on fire, but because it's good to have a plan and it's good to understand that and it's good to prepare for things, even if you don't necessarily know what those things are going to be right away. So that is what I'm going to put forward is let's have the homework be prepare your bug out bag and let's put in the comments what you think are important pieces to put in there. I'm going to say for me what the important stuff to me is 3-month supply of my meds in case I can't get a hold of them. A couple of cans of food, a can opener, a heater, a some spare like a sewing kit and like an emergency patch kit and an emergency tire kit. And I'm gonna say enough reserve things of value that if I needed to, I could trade for what I needed. And that's where I'm gonna leave it. And it's gonna be near my front door, but not in front of my front door. And just there if something should happen. Okay, guys, that's everything I've got for today. I want to thank all of you for watching as long as you did. I really appreciate you all. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. Take care, everybody.